Hello, what's good, everybody? Today we got a special one for you today because we're going to be talking about the law of attraction. We're really going to break it down step by step in a very simplistic way so that you understand. It's going to be very brief, very understandable, very good stuff. So first of all, my name is Zach DeGal. For those of you who do not know, I coach this sort of stuff. I coach manifestation and how to attract what you want into being, okay? So first things first, we all know that feelings is what ends up drawing to us what we want. In case you didn't know, that's what the deal is, okay? You need to get in the right frequency, the right state to be able to attract what you want in your life. And the right state is really talking about emotion. You have to feel like you already have what you want and that what you want in your life is already happening to you, that it's already part of your reality, it's already who you are. This is the number one thing that a lot of people don't get right. Now, the exact process, because the people are like, oh, what if I'm inconsistent? What if I'm this? What if I'm that? The thing about it is that feelings create behaviors. Behaviors create actions, and then your actions from that linear line create your results. So whatever action you're taking from whatever standpoint, like whatever emotion that you're taking that action from, is ultimately going to create your results. So for example, you could be feeling bad, right, for an entire day, and then all of a sudden, let's say that you feel good and then you take an action when you feel really, really good, then you're going to get positive results. You see what I'm saying? So it's really about how you feel during the action and really what that emotion makes you do, what actions that emotion has you take. So this is why it's very important. Now, obviously, you're going to want to live in the emotion as much as possible. You're going to really want to embody the end state to really be able to, again, live that life and really understand that life so that you attract people into your life, right? Because if you're not embodying it completely, then how are you going to continuously attract over and over consistently what you want? For example, if you want a certain friendship, if you want a certain relationship, you're obviously going to have to attract that over and over again, right, for it to stick around. And so obviously the way to do that is just to embody that state, really become that state, really change your identity to where that's just who you are now. Okay, so again, remember, your emotion will create thoughts, frequencies, etc. Your thoughts, we can draw a little brain here, your thoughts is going to be what ends up driving your actions. It's just like a little running guy, right? It's gonna be what ends up driving your actions, what's gonna dictate your actions. For example, say you feel really good, say you feel really happy. You're like, I feel really happy right now. Then you're gonna start having thoughts. Okay, well, because I feel happy, what's gonna align with the state of being? Then you're gonna start thinking of things that make you happy, right? Things that you like doing that make you happy. Oh, I really like playing guitar. I really like singing. I really like going to pet shop or something. You know, whatever it is. Like, then you're going to actually start thinking of ways to be able to align yourself even more to that frequency. Then you're going to think of how to get there, right? Oh, I could drive a car. I can get out this. I could do that. And then you're going to go do those things and take actions from that state. And this is the sort of thing, too, where it's like the domino effect. Okay, where if you think good things start happening to you around you as well. And vice versa with the bad thing. In fact, this really clicked one day at the store where I still remember to this day, it was a couple months ago, and I was just in a really bad state, right? Really bad. And I went in there, and like pretty much all these certain events that just seemed like out of a movie happened. I go in there, I'm so in my head that I cut someone in line without even knowing it to get the cart. I realize it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Anyways, I go into the store, I go into the apple section, literally pour like apples onto the ground from trying to get them. Like literally just these things just happen that seemed out of a movie, right? And I remember stopping and thinking and realizing this, and I thought, this is actually crazy, because it was literally just stuff that was just like, how is this even possible that this is even happening right now, right? Just like, how is it even this bad? How is things just collapsing this much? But that's what clicked for me. Because I realized, yeah, actually, how is this happening? And of course, when I retraced it back, I realized, well, I was already in this really bad state and all these things happened. And ironically, it actually gave me a lot of optimistic hope for my situation, because I realized, you know, if things could go so impossibly wrong because of my thoughts, then things could go so impossibly right because of my thoughts. And this is what you have to realize. See, because everything that was happening, the turn of events was quite illogical. It's like there's no way things actually do that, you know, the way people were responding. And I have seen in my own life, this is so the case, where things that seem impossibly irrationally good have happened in my life from the exact same process, from thinking and feeling in a great state, then all of a sudden things that you didn't even know would happen start happening for you, and all these good things start to come to you. People start talking to you. They have like this sort of good energy about you. They're drawn to you. All these sorts of things come to you when you're in a good state. And so this is why too you really need to put logic on the back burner, okay? Because logic is not going to tell you that this can happen. Logic is going to say that you have to grind and you have to try, but that's from the frequency of trying. When you're in the frequency of trying, you're not in the frequency of already having. That's so important. That's so key. That's why you never want to get hung up on, I have to grind it out. I have to try to do this. Because success always happens from alignment, from locking in to the alignment. It never happens from work. People will talk about, I worked so hard for 10 years until I finally got this position. The funny thing is that the 10 years of work had nothing to do with their success. And this is something that's really hard for people to wrap their head around, especially if your ego is tied to your hard work and I'm a hard worker, or you spend a lot of time grinding. Your ego's not going to want to accept this fact. It's going to be like, no, this is wrong. I'm a hard worker. Only hard workers get what they want. But in reality, what happens is they grind for 10 years and then finally they give up. They're like, I give up, God, take the reins. They have more faith and they actually align to the thing of actually having what they wanted in the first place. And that alignment is what actually gets them the thing. And, I mean, if you think about this, this actually makes complete logical sense, ironically. Okay, because think about if you approach the human being, right? If you went and approached a stranger, say you wanted to get better at that, whatever. Imagine if you approached 100 people one day, and you approach them, but you're really angry, you're really, hey, how's it going? Hey, talk to me. You think you're going to be very, you think people are going to want to talk to you? No, they're not going to. It doesn't matter if you could approach 100,000 people. Unless you approach someone from an insane asylum that just broke out, no one's going to want to talk to you. But then you could approach only one person in a great mood, and guess what? They're probably going to want to talk to you. And if it's a fluke that they're just having a bad day, right, which they probably is not going to happen, because if you're in a great mood, you're probably going to filter out the people in a bad mood and go straight to the people intuitively who are in a good mood. See, so your odds of success go up. It has nothing, see, and notice, if you approach 100 people in a bad state, doesn't matter how many people you approach, you're not going to get a positive response. You could approach one person in a great state. Your RAS, because you're in a good state, your RAS is already going to be looking for people who are alike in that area, who are also in a good state. And this is going to happen intuitively. You're just going to be like, oh, they look cool. I should go up to them. I don't know why I picked them out of a crowd. I'm just going to go up to them. You pick them out of a crowd because like attracts like, because your reticular activating system, the notice center of your brain, notice that they are on the same frequency as you, that they're on the same emotional level as you. So then you approach that one person that just so happens to be a good person, to end up being your friend, to be likable, etc. And then you get it off with that person and you guys become friends, whatever. And it took one approach, not 100. While the other person took 100 and never saw any results. So this is the whole thing. If you've been confused about it doesn't take effort, it doesn't take hard work, this is exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, it takes energy, because energy, when we talk about energy in the universe and attraction, people think, and people can maybe be mistaken that it has something to do with like some other material things or the universe. It's to do with people, guys. Anything that you want in your life has to do with another person. If you want a job, you have to convince another person to give you that job. If you want a client, you have to convince a client to want to work with you. If you want an acting job, you have to convince the director. Everything has to do with energy and has to do with convincing human beings. And human beings work on emotional levels. The mind works on emotion. The logic and the rational reasoning comes from the emotion. Okay, this is how it all works. People's logical reasoning comes second after emotion. If people are doubtful that something's going to work, not going to work out, they're going to come up with the logical reasons as to why, oh, this can't work out for me because you got this and you got this and you got this. Really, that's stemming from an emotion. You see, so logic in reality, logic There's a place for it. There's places in the brain that works on logic. But in a lot of ways, we're really not governed by logic at all. Logic is second to emotion. We're really guided by emotion. We're emotional beings. We're guided by that. So that's why it works. So that's why it doesn't matter if you take 100. And I love that example because anybody can think about it, right? It's like if you're angry and you approach someone, no one's going to no one's going to want to talk to you. But if you approach them in a loving way, they're probably going to be very open. And even if they're in a bad mood, they're probably going to be very open because they're going to be like, hey, this person can actually make my day, right? So that's why action doesn't matter. It's the how you come about in that action that's going to really be the thing. So again, this emotion leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to ideas for actions as to how you can get something. Those ideas lead to success. And here's another thing. You have to make sure, this is the last thing, okay? This is what I call the beginner mindset versus the pro mindset. And this is very important because say you want to go become an actor. So a lot of people, if they want to go become an actor, they're going to look online and they're going to be like, okay, they're going to get in the Reddit forums and they're going to be looking at things of, I'm beginning this process of what I'm becoming an actor. So I'm going to look at what everybody else says about it. And then they're going to find all these doubts, all these things of what the average person is. Because the average person doesn't become successful. Okay, this is just the reality. The average person isn't successful. And so the average person is going to have their doubts. They're going to be in the bad frequencies. They're not going to want the frequencies of trying. And so what happens is the beginner not knowing, okay, and I've been here before with my endeavors, the beginner not knowing is going to get in that pool and listen to those thoughts of all the doubts and why it's so hard, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to listen to their so-called logical reasons. And all of a sudden, without knowing it, they have aligned to the frequency of being in this doubtful state. They've aligned to the frequency of being a beginner who's in doubt. Now, this is very important because if you're in that frequency, obviously you're always going to be remaining in this frequency of trying. So the idea is not to think of, like if you wanted to get into, again, using the example of acting, if you wanted to get into acting, you shouldn't think, what do I have to do to become a great actor? No. What you do is you get outside yourself, okay, which takes healing. You got to be confident in everything. If you're more interested in that, check out a link below, comment, and we can work together. But if you want to become an actor, for example, you have to think on the level that those actors will be thinking. They want to be thinking, how do I get a role? How do I do this? They already know how to get a role. And from here, you're going to understand, okay, you're going to start looking at auditions for real roles, right? You're going to actually audition for shows that can actually give you a real shot in being successful in whatever it is you're trying to be successful at. See, instead of actually trying to get into the nitty-gritty of it and get into this and get into that, then you're going to actually attract real results into your life instead of, I'm trying to do it, I don't have it, and that's where you're going to actually get somewhere in your life. So this is very important to apply, okay? You always want to come from it of, if I already had this, logically, what would I be doing? How would I be coming at this problem? What is the emotion that I would feel? Because it's going to be completely different than the beginner mindset. You're going to be connecting with people. You're going to be taking a lot more bold action that from the person who already has doesn't seem like bold action, so you're going to be more confident in taking that action. But from the outside world, it's going to be very bold, right? You're going to be reaching out and talking to people that to the outside world, they think you have no business reaching out to. But you're going to be so confident, have so much conviction in doing so, you're going to find a way to get there. The people are going to be like, well, I really like this. I want to see what's going on. I want to see what they have to offer. And then they're going to give you a shot. And then that's how you really do it. It doesn't matter. Even the people who were beginners and everything, they went through this exact process where eventually they had to stop thinking like everybody else, and they had to rise above to a frequency again of already having and being like, no, you know what? I decide today that I am good enough, that I am worthy. And then once a person decides that, that is when they get the results. Not through years of hard work, not through 10 years of this, that, and the other. No, it's when they finally decide that they are worthy and when they finally step into who they really are that they get the results. So again, if you want to learn more about this and really how to implement this in your life, go ahead and comment below. Reach out to me on my Instagram as well. It's the same as my name here on YouTube. And I look forward to working with you.